Film in Minnesota. I'm Alan Tracy.
I'm Rahana Power.
And today we have Anthony Cousins joining us. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Good.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good, yeah.
Good. You are joining us from Denver, Colorado, which looks much nicer out right now than it is here. So I'm very jealous that you can be on a porch and enjoy that. We've got lots of questions for you today. But before we dive in, just want to get to know you on just a more personal level. Can you tell us something fun, interesting about yourself?
Well, recently, actually for a long time now, I go through spats of watching movies and TV a whole lot, but then I go through like months of like barely watching it at all, and I get more inspiration from reading books and comics. I think I don't know, movies can be inspirational sometimes, like seeing something awesome that you like, but I think more so I'm just using more of my imagination when I'm reading. I'm making a movie in my head while I like read this story. So like I don't know, I love reading right now.
Are you reading something specific, or like have you read something recently where you're like, I'm obsessed?
I'm always reading like four things at once. Like I'll have like nonfiction and fiction going on my Kindle, and nonfiction
Wow.
and fiction going on in a physical book, because I don't know if it's ADD or what, but I just have to bounce around. Um, I just started a book called The Overlooked, which is about the Gracie twins from The Shining. So it's like
Oh,
kind of like a really cheeky like horror story from their perspective as like these poor, you know, it's like two little girls that are like stuck at the age that they died at in this hotel and just like trying to, have a good time. uh, so that's pretty fun. I like that one.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Really interesting concept. Okay, so I'm gonna jump, Alan. So bear with me here. Based on something you've just said, I'm curious. I'm gonna make this a double question. What books have really inspired you, and then who in like film has inspired you?
Book wise, um, there's like this whole scene, this like bizarro literature scene going on. It's been going on for kind of a long time. Like, I think Chuck Palahniuk that did Fight Club like would be considered part of that scene, like the more mainstream side. But there's just like when you dive in to what these like up and coming authors are doing, it's just incredible. It's just like wild uh, creativity, just like gone nuts with like no barriers, no borders, no bumpers. So those guys really inspire me. Danger Slater, Jeremy Robert Johnson, um, Carlton Mellick, Chuck Tingle. I don't know if you guys know who Chuck Tingle is, but he does he does like this really comedic, like almost like horror creature erotica. Um, like very like queer positive stuff, and it's just really entertaining. But now he's like taken that giant following that he's created and like started writing like legit like horror books. So he wrote one called Camp Damascus about like a conversion therapy camp. That was like one of the best books I read last year. So those guys are really inspiring. In film, kind of on that same note, like the people that have always inspired me are the ones that are uh, like doing just crazy stuff that you see it and you go, I don't even know how you got anyone to believe in this, because it's so like you can't compare it to anything. It's so wild. Like it feels like such an unsafe bet of a movie to make. So, I mean, like the classics like David Cronenberg, David Lynch, um, Guillermo del Toro, um, a more recent creator who I'm becoming obsessed with is, I think if I'm saying her name right, Jane Schoenberg.
Oh, yeah.
She did I Saw the TV Glow that just came out.
Right.
Incredible movie. And her last one, We're All Going to the World's Fair. Like both are so good. I can't think of any other movie that resembles either of those. So like I love
Wow,
that.
Hmm.
nice. Do you have a favorite I feel like this is a loaded question, especially for anyone in film. I would not be able to answer. Well, generally speaking, would not be able to answer. But do you have a favorite like film?
The Fly. David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All
It's
right.
got everything I ever want in a movie. It's a creature feature, body horror, Jeff Goldblum,
Jeff Goldblum.
romance, comedy, drama. It's kind of like an opera in
Yeah.
some ways.
Yep.
I love that movie so much.
I love it.
Yeah, I went back to that for something. It was just like, or I forget what I had something, and it was like, oh, you have The Fly. I was like, oh, I can watch it. Okay. So
Nice.
do you watch any of the Baby Cronin?
Oh yeah, I love what he's doing. Yeah, and yeah, his son is getting in the directing
Oh,
game.
got it.
Yeah, Possessor was incredible. Infinity Pool last year was one of my favorite movies of
Yeah.
last year. It's so Mia Goth is so good.
Oh,
And I loved like, oh, what's his name? Is it Alexander Skarsgård that's in that one? I get my Skarsgårds
yes.
mixed up sometimes,
So
but
good.
he's so good. And that movie juxtaposed with The Northman, which came out either earlier that year or the year before, which is like the most like hetero masculine like role you could ever imagine playing. And then playing Infinity Pool, he's just like the most like pathetic, demasculated guy of all time. I was like, nice, dude. That's so cool that you're like, okay, I got that out of my system. I growled at a fire naked, and now I'm just gonna be this wimp.
Yeah. I gotta say, The Northman was a lot for me. And I love him and Anna Taylor-Joy. Love them. And I like halfway through, I was like, I feel like I'm gonna need like a breather movie after this. Like it's so intense. But man, he's just so good at like everything he does.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he showed up in Succession also. So
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
I
played
haven't
a
watched
gig
that yet.
CEO, yeah. And
I really do need to watch that.
last season of Succession, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. So, Anthony, how did you get your start in film? What sounds like The Fly, but
Yeah, I definitely saw The Fly way too young. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of restrictions on what I was watching as a kid, so I got into horror pretty early. But like before I got into the real horror, it was like Goosebumps and stuff like that. I was really into like the fun kid horror stuff. So yeah, that kind of got me into it. I've just been a cinephile ever since, and I went to school for cinematography because I couldn't find anything that would have made money that I cared to go to school for. So I don't know. I can't remember at what point I was like, I guess I'll try film professionally, but here we are.
try it
What made you
professionally.
what made you choose like if you were just kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. Like what made you choose cinematography and like
Well,
that behind the camera direction?
so I went to MCTC, which is like a 2-year program,
Yep.
and the first year everyone's like learning the same stuff. You don't pick your major until later in the year. Um, And I think the majority of us, there were some people that knew what they wanted to do. They were like, I'm going to be an editor or whatever. But I think the majority of us were all thinking, like, we want to make our own stuff. We're all going to direct.
Yeah.
And they kind of tell you early on, like, well, there's 17 slots next year, so you're not all going to be directing. and yeah, that's like making projects that year was when I learned I had a bit of a knack for cinematography and like at least naturally having no idea what I'm doing in film, making my first things, that was the thing that was strongest. So that's what I decided to focus on.
Interesting. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope,
What?
you go.
Oh,
Helen.
I will go. Jeez.
We're good at this.
So, what was you said like Goosebumps, but let's see, was there like, what was the other one? Scary Stories to Tell in the
Oh
Dark?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Those
remember
covers.
those covers, yeah.
Yeah.
And all the illustrations inside were like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you,
I love those books.
what was your first like introduction into film to watch?
Hey everyone. We've got a lot of fun episodes up and ready for you on our new Patreon. I've got lots of awesome guests, playlists for you, and all of the fun tangent chats with these guests.
Like Abisha Yule, Chazara, learned how to say her real name, Leon, Keeley, and even drunk stories. You name it, we talk about it. Join for free and get extra episodes for as little as $5 a month. Get every Patreon episode in the link in the show notes.
So check us out at patreon.com/film in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We'll see you there.
Man, that's tough. That's tough to say or remember, but I know like Gremlins was a staple when I was a kid. I watched Gremlins and Gremlins 2 like over and over and over, which is like the perfect mashup of like, you know, when it's creepy, it's genuinely creepy. You know, there's scary moments, but like it's so comedic. You know, Joe Dante's got this like heavy Looney Tunes inspiration going on. So that's, I can't think of a more perfect gateway into horror for a kid than Gremlins.
Right. Yeah, for horror, definitely. And you could like get it from the library or something. It was just so accessible. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's fine. It's for kids. Is it?
Oh yeah, it's one of two movies that created the PG-13 rating, along with
Really?
Temple of Doom. Those two movies came out the same year, and yeah, I think that's when Hollywood was like, I think we need something in between PG and R.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Especially Temple of Doom. I totally didn't know.
Because you go back, both those movies are
I
PG.
guess, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
They're a little intense to be considered PG. And then you look at other stuff that came out before them that's PG, like 16 Candles has like full on nudity and stuff like that. So it's, they paved the way.
Good point.
Unlike you, I had restrictions. My household followed the MPA whatever rating system. You can't watch that. You're not 13. It's like, but at my neighbor's house, they had like Terminator and Aliens, and I was like, oh, what's this? You know, it's like, can I watch this? It's like, don't tell your parents we showed you this.
It's like when you're not allowed to listen to certain music, so your friends burn CDs for you and title it like some just ridiculous thing. And you're like, they don't know that I'm listening to Eminem. They think that I'm listening to like Reba McEntire, but I'm not. It's great. That's what that sounds like. So Anthony, you're in Denver right now. You went to MCTC here. I don't know your backstory on how long you were in Minnesota and all that, but what have you loved most about being able to film in Minnesota?
I guess what I love most about it is it's home turf for me. I mean, I know, like when I have a story that I know I'm gonna shoot, I kind of know like where to go for everything. I know who's gonna be my crew. I know sometimes I know my cast, or at least I know enough people to like figure out, to get to who my cast will be. I either have locations in mind, or I know who to ask to find locations. Like, it's so much simpler to shoot in Minnesota than if I tried to make something anywhere else. Like I've been in Denver for a year now, and I've like maybe just now made enough contacts that I could probably make something comfortably here. But even then, it's like, it's still, I think it'd be a little more difficult or a little more expensive than if I would come home. I'm coming home next month to shoot a short film because, it just, I can't make it happen here or anywhere else, for the price that I have.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. But it seems like a long trip to make a short film, it's like.
Definitely. And so I weighed my options and I'm like, well, if I try and do it here, and then there's still people that like in Minnesota that I just work on with everything that I'd have to fly out. And at least right now it makes more sense to come back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is
See
great.
more
It's a good
people.
reason to come home and, see family and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We kind of already touched on who inspires you in film, like the Cronenbergs and that sort of. Any other names that come to mind for you, or?
Yeah, Cronenberg, Lynch, Sam Raimi, John Carpenter. I guess like the Godfathers of horror for me. are my biggest inspirations. I'm trying to think of anything like non-horror. I mean, Spielberg,
Yeah.
Yeah.
has made some of the most perfect movies of all time, in my opinion. Like Jurassic Park is maybe the one of the only like 10 out of 10 movies for me.
Yeah.
No Notes, James Cameron,
Yeah.
huge inspiration. I love Titanic.
Oh.
Yeah.
So do they both fit on the door or do they not?
I mean, I got to go with Cameron. He said that they would have. Until he conceded and admitted that, I had always defended his choice. I guess Jack was just being a foolish gentleman.
Yep. And Rose was like, "No, it's cool. You're fine.
Yeah,
Like you're good. It's cool."
you're not with.
Yeah. Like I'm at least warmer up here. So, sorry, I interrupted. You love Titanic.
Yeah, I love watching them. I probably watched that movie more than anything else. I would imagine it's probably like
Really?
either that or Evil Dead.
Very similar movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Very similar.
1, 2, Army of Darkness. What do you?
Well, the first one more than the others. And it's such a perfect trilogy, and like all three of them are so wildly different that like, if anyone's like, well, two's the best, three's the best, one's the best, like I would like, there's no wrong answer in my opinion. It's like, I think it's usually like which one did you see first seems to be people's favorite, because it's one of those weird series where, I mean, Army of Darkness, I think a lot of people saw not even knowing it was an Evil Dead movie.
Right.
And Evil Dead 2 just got so much more reach than the first one that I think a lot of people saw that first. For me, I saw the first one first.
Oh,
And it was one of those movies that made me realize like that I could maybe make movies. Like it was like seeing that and Clerks within like a couple months of each other when I was a freshman in high school, that I was like, whoa, you don't have to be in Hollywood to make movies. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't need studio backing. Like you can just go out there and do it. So yeah, that's why that movie's so special to me.
nice.
I like it.
And it's so unfair for James Cameron to have Terminator 2 and Aliens. I'm just like, that's not fair. You can't have two of the best, some of the best films.
Yeah.
But he does. So,
I mean, some of them do. I mean, Christopher Nolan.
yeah.
Like, does he have a bad movie? It's not fair, but what are you gonna do? So you seem to love horror. Like that seems to be your niche, whatever.
Yeah.
Not knowing all the films you've made, do you tend to try and make horror films as well, or do you kind of spread it out and hit comedy, drama, like anything else? And secondary to that, is there a genre that you haven't dipped your toe into that you're like, this would be kind of cool?
I think for a lot of reasons, not only because like horror is definitely my number one love and it's like what I want to do most. It's pretty much all I've done. But it also, on the indie budget level, it's the most fun, and it's the most fun to pull off, I think, on the indie level. And you can get really creative and you can get messy and you can make mistakes and things can be rough around the edges, like Evil Dead. And there's a lot more forgiveness around it, where like if you just did like a straight drama that looked like the first Evil Dead, you probably wouldn't be in Hollywood infamy,
Yeah.
So I think for that reason too, it just makes a lot of sense to stay in horror right now. But there's tons of stuff that I would love to do, just like a straight up sci-fi movie. I would love to do a musical,
Really?
although it would be a horror musical, because I think it's been far too long since we've had like like a Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in horror, the other thing I love about it is like you can mash it up with any other genre. And
It's true.
so I've done horror comedy, I've done body horror, I've done sci-fi horror. Yeah. But I haven't I've done dramatic stuff, but I haven't done something that like was like heavily dramatic. So that's
Hmm.
that's something I would like to do. Is like I've got like a really heavy, almost like A24 style
Ooh,
horror movie in mind that I'd like to do at some point soon.
nice.
Did Did you hear about the Backrooms guy who made the Backrooms is getting a deal or has a film
Yeah,
in the works with them? Yeah,
yeah, that's
all
awesome.
from
I can't wait to
YouTube.
see that.
It's just like that's how you got a deal. What am I doing
And
wrong? It's like
he was like 18 at the time, I think, too, when he got that deal.
yeah.
Yeah,
My gosh.
So make YouTube videos, okay?
I
unprecedented
guess.
times for sure.
You're right. Everyone's watching YouTube at that time.
Yeah.
Is there well, you just kind of made mention of the type of film you like to make, but how about feature film that you would like to make? I know I just saw the announcement for Frogman 2, but is there other ones as well in the works or
Well, yeah, that drama one that I mentioned, the A24-esque
Hmm.
one, is something that's not out of the realm of possibilities in the near future. It's not an incredibly expensive movie. It's one actually I've got two that kind of fit that model that I wrote specifically to shoot in Minnesota, and they could be shot anywhere, but I'd like to come back and shoot them in Minnesota.
Hmm.
If money wasn't an object, yeah, I'd want to do the horror musical. I think that would be so much fun. Like just building sets. I love movies that you can clearly tell are shot on sets.
Yeah.
It's just such a different feel than things that were shot on location
yeah.
in a fun way. Like it just feels all more handmade. Like, oh well, okay, another non horror inspiration is Terry Gilliam. And I can never remember this guy's name, but the guy that did Amelie and Delicatessen,
Oh, yeah.
and those movies, like those guys just build like other worlds, and it's not even like other
Yeah.
planet, like sci-fi. It's just like slightly off kilter, like alternate Earths,
Hmm.
and everything just feels so handmade in their movies, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A movie like that comes to mind for me is like, have you seen Moon?
Oh, with Sam Rockwell,
Yeah,
yeah, I love that movie.
yeah. Just
Hmm.
basically him all the time. So
Yeah, super
yeah.
fun. They used miniatures. I love
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
horse
wow.
perspective miniatures. Yeah, it was just like, what? That's not the whole hallway? Okay. How'd they do that? Pinewood Studios. That's how they did that.
That's how.
That'll do it. So you made a lot of films in Minnesota, but have you, I mean, having been out in Denver for a year now, have you made films outside of Minnesota?
I haven't made any personal projects outside of Minnesota that I can think of.
Hmm.
I've done like music videos and commercials that I've directed outside of Minnesota, but like yeah, none of my own personal projects, but I've worked a ton in film in other states.
Oh,
I'd say
good.
almost more so than I've worked in Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah, but just all my stuff I come home for.
That's so endearing. I love that.
Yeah. Where are these other films happening? That you're
Um,
mostly
I
the
mean,
do you like is it mainly in like the West Coast, East Coast, where
kind of all over the place. I've worked in LA, Florida, Kansas, Missouri, Chicago a lot because I hooked up with a production company out there that keep bringing me back that are doing super fun horror stuff and sometimes like weird Hallmark Christmas movies.
That's amazing.
Yeah. For a while there, it was like we're gonna do a crazy, bizarro horror movie, and then we're gonna do another Hallmark Christmas movie starring like Dermot Mulroney or whatever. So like that was a fun time. Where else? Montana.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. So
yeah.
yeah,
But
really
you
all
know,
over the place.
until the last 2 years, now all of a sudden film has been really picking up in Minnesota, and I've been back in
Hmm.
Minnesota for more jobs. But
okay.
yeah, before that, before the tax incentive got decent,
Hmm.
I was just everywhere but Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Um when it comes to making your own films, is there a particular challenge? It sounds like there is since you're coming back home for the next one. But what do you find the most challenging when you start making a new film or something?
I guess when I start making a new film, the most challenging thing is like remembering how to self-discipline. Because if you want to make something, there's literally nobody else pushing it forward except you. So like
Yeah.
you got to do the grunt work. So that's always a fun process to like get back in the swing of things. But I mean, like the entire like from front to back, the entire process, the hardest part for me always is just day one getting out of bed, of like day one of filming, because like and the night before, like dealing with my nerves the night before that morning, because those are the two moments where I'm like, this is a huge mistake, this is not going to go right. Like I picture like every possible way that this is going to fail, and like I'm going to let all these people down, and it's that moment where it's just like, if I could quit right now and not show up, I would. Every time I would, but like it's too late, like people are already showing up, so I got to go. And then I get there and everything, I've never had a bad first day, everything always goes fine, and then every day waking up after that is a breeze. But that first morning is just like my own personal hell.
Yeah. What if the what if?
Like your own little horror movie, like happening.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. I relate to that with almost any project, because it's like, whether it be a wedding, a film, another thing that you have to get up and go to. It's just kind of like, do I have all the gear? Do I have this? Do I have that? All the things you need. Then like you get to set or wherever you're at, and you can't. You're like, I'm missing this piece or whatever. Well, too late. You have to work with what you got. So
you got to figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think there's just like, when making my own stuff, there's just always this voice that morning that's like, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve all these people showing up to help you make your thing. Like, who do you think you are? And like that voice just gets really loud that first morning of things, but just got to punch it down.
So like a sort of imposter syndrome sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
I think that's more common than you think.
Especially in the film industry. I feel like everybody that we've probably talked to has some form of that at some point in the filming or audition process or anything like that. And they're like, damn it.
Yeah.
But then once you get going, you're like, oh wait, this is awesome and I am good enough.
Yeah. I think it's like, but like before you just get into it, the imposter syndrome is like, can just be so real, because it's almost like the what's that thing, the Schrodinger's cat or whatever, like until you open the box the cat is dead and alive or whatever. So it's like the imposter syndrome is right until you start doing it, and then you start doing it, and then it can't control you anymore, because you're like, wait, no, I totally know how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the biggest challenge. On the flip side, what's like the thing that you look forward to the most when you're making a film? Like, whether it's obviously not day one, but like maybe creating the idea of it, getting it put together, the last part, or when you get to show it, like throughout the whole process.
I mean, I think my favorite part of the whole process is like doing the effects, whether it's like makeup or we got a creature or we're gonna do some sort of cool kill. I mean, that's my favorite stuff. Like, I think the most exciting thing about working in film to me is getting to make things that wouldn't exist in the natural world, and like just getting to do weird stuff like that. So that's my favorite. And then I also love just there's always things that you don't have figured out along the way, like writing, pre-production, in production. Like there's always these unknowns that you kind of just accept that they're going to figure themselves out, and they always do. And like that is like one of the greatest feelings in the world to me. Like right now we're writing Frogman 2, for instance, and there's like this good kind of bones to the whole thing, but like there's big parts that's like, if we made the movie with the script that we're at right now, not be good. Like there's a lot to figure out still.
Yeah.
And it's like just trusting that like the more we work on it, the more we talk about it, like we will figure it out. And like I just had a conversation with my co-writer last night for a couple hours about some of these things. And these solutions just start to reveal themselves. Like you almost feel like you're like not even in control of it. Like you're just like waiting for them to show up. Or there's like pieces that are meant to link together to solve problems that you just can't see like how they connect until they're ready for you to see them. It's so hard to explain, but when all of a sudden those things start to connect, and it's like it's like this domino effect of like we got these multiple problems, but like, oh wait, if this connects to this, that solves that, and then this and this and this, and it just feels so good.
That reminds me of like Breaking Bad, just like an episode of Breaking Bad where it's like a plane crash and then they're back here like what's going on here, and then it all comes together, of course, but it's all like the way it connects is like so deep, that when you think about it, it's like, oh, it's like perfectly fits together, but I didn't see it in the first place. So it's just kind of like interesting like that in the creative process.
Yeah, and the collaboration. I mean, those things I don't think would happen the same way if you're, working alone. And that's like really the beauty of film as an art form. It's so much an art form, obviously, like, but as an art form, like that's the best part of it. It's like you can't do this alone. So like you get all these other like people involved that just change it, and you got to be ready for that.
Yeah. And I have a question I'll interject here just because it's not on this list. We ask this to most of our people that we talk to. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I love that response.
I mean, the reassuring part of me wants to be like, I mean, I'm not where I want to be right now, but I mean, if a younger version of me saw where I am, he'd be like, hell yeah, dude, are you serious? That's so cool. So I mean, I'd tell him that, but I'd also be like, dude, be more disciplined. Like, I still have such a hard time with discipline. And it's like, I know if I would have started good self-discipline, 10 years ago, I'd be even further now. But I just like, I do feel like I'm delayed right now because I take the scenic route, and I get distracted easily, and I'm like, I push things off over and over. I'm like, I could just like finish Fallout tonight and start writing tomorrow.
If you haven't yet, you should.
Yeah.
For the record, I just finished it last night. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah,
but if you
makes
hadn't,
sense.
you could be on track. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, yesterday I just like threw my whole to-do list to the wind and watched like the first 5 episodes.
Was it Jim Gaffigan who had a joke about that? Like, you're working on watching your cue list, like we talk about it like it's a problem. Like, well, I'm gonna get to that, yeah. But I just did a real good thing. I finished Mad Men,
Yeah, it is kind of a job in of itself because there's so many platforms, so
many things, yeah,
and so many like the queues are just never ending on each of them. So
yeah. I remember a time like when it was just Netflix.
Yeah.
And like their roster, like what they had started to get really good. And all of a sudden my queue was over 100 movies and I'd get anxiety about it. And I'm like, no, I will get through this though, and like, I mean, when I was like before streaming, when I was a kid, I would watch anything that I even was mildly interested in, even if it wasn't totally my thing. Like I'd watch Grey's Anatomy and Bones, and like, I would never watch those now. There's shows that are like, literally like shows that are made for me that I don't even know if I will ever watch because there's so many of them, and there's just not enough time. I mean, like for Fallout to have been out as long as it has and I'm just getting around to it, like says a lot. But it does feel really good to like let go of that too. To like let go of, you know what? There's always going to be a watch list and I'm never going to get through it.
Exactly. And someday, like it could be a few years from now, someday you're going to like stumble upon something that you totally forgot about, and you're gonna be like, I suddenly have time out of nowhere, and you're gonna watch it and be like, this was the right moment for me to watch this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's just how, like, I had surgery last December, and I had a week where I was like, I'm just stuck in my recliner. I'm not allowed to go walking around. I can't do anything. I was like, and I can't sleep. So I'm just going to watch stuff. Blew through a whole series, and I was like, this is worth it.
Yeah.
like, it's awesome. So every now and again, it works out.
That's what I love about winter. You know,
Yeah.
like winter is where you get to like just do a whole lot more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Anthony, what's next for you? Sounds like you have a bunch of stuff kind of in the works. You're coming to Minnesota, but like, what's like next?
So next, yeah, in July, I'm coming back to Minnesota to shoot a short film that we're gonna try and like accelerate and get done in time for this fall festival season. And yeah, it's just a little horror comedy short. I love festival season in the fall, like all these horror film festivals. It's just become like a part of my annual tradition to go to these things, and it's so much more fun to go when you have something. So
Yes.
I'm gonna do that, and then and yeah, we're in the middle of like writing Frogman 2 and getting that ready to shoot, and then we'll be back in Minnesota to shoot that either later this year or early next year.
Nice.
So we worked on, well, I showed up for a day on Frogman. And thank you, by the way. I didn't, like, people were coming up to me and saying, like, you're in Frogman. I'm like, what? What? How do I see this? It's like, and I missed the premiere, sadly, in Minnesota, but I saw it eventually. Excited to hear there's a second one, so maybe there's a chance. Another neighbor of mine. No. But where can people find your work, like Frogman or any of your other shorts? Or like, I'm still wanting to find. You did a short film about the ice cream one.
Mm-hmm. Can I swear on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or did you,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Every time we meet for ice cream, your whole fucking face explodes.
Yes.
If you look that up on YouTube, it's the short is
on
probably the
YouTube?
only thing that's going to come up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that title. Oh my god. Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's on YouTube. When Susurrus Stirs, The Bloody Ballad of Squirt Reynolds, those are all on YouTube. Those are all shorts.
This sounds like trauma stuff. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, it's funny that I made Frogman is just called Frogman because like everything else I've made has these like absurdly long titles.
Right.
But yeah, and Frogman's on Apple TV and Amazon right now, and then it goes to Screambox tomorrow, actually, or June 7th. If I don't know when this is going to play, but yeah, so that's our home for streaming now. If you have a subscription.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great.
And then on YouTube, is it just Anthony Cousins, or do you have like a different name to your YouTube channel?
That's a great question. I don't know. I barely use it. Actually, I think Face Explodes is like pretty much the only thing I've put up because those other shorts are on Alter, which is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm just at Anthony_Cousins on.
Okay. Yeah, obsessed with that title. I need to watch that, so I need to know where to find it. Okay.
Alter.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're on YouTube also, right?
Yep. Yeah. Alter is like a YouTube channel that it just does like horror shorts.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Huh. Okay, so Anthony, the big question that we have for you today, what do you want people to remember most about you?
I mean, I guess I hope the weird movies I've made live on, and people just go, "Damn, he made some weird stuff." And hopefully, people thought I was nice and nice to work with, and not a dick. Also,
I like it.
I hear that. No, I'm just kidding.
We've known each other for an hour, and I think you're nice, so I feel like that's a success at least.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and letting us just drill you with questions. It was really fun getting to meet you and getting to know you more. We appreciate your time. And for all of our listeners and viewers, this has been Film in Minnesota.